So this morning I was driving and I was at an intersection, with a bunch of cars. And then there was this Jeep who was making a left turn and had, passed right by me because I was in the front of my lane. And it was a white Jeep and it had this like forest green door on it. But there was something written on the door, and you could tell from far away that, something was written on it or it was like scratched up. But I saw the letters right away. So I tried to read it, as it got closer to me, and it's passing by, and this green door on this white Jeep says, I identify as a white door, right? Because the Jeep originally probably should have been white. I don't know if he damaged his door and replaced it, or that was the style he was going for, or if overall, like, it was intended as a joke. But, in that situation, his door is green, but the words are saying, I identify as a white door. And it kind of had my gears turning, right? I kind of started thinking about this phenomenon. Like, people do this all the time. What if me as a, Hispanic woman, right? But I'm fair skinned. So sometimes people may think I'm, fully American, or if you want to call it white, right? So me, as, let's just say, this like white woman, and we're not trying to put labels on it, and I'm not trying to identify myself as a, white woman or as a color at all. I used to even tell my kids when they were younger, we don't say colors, because he would say, oh, so and so is passing by, this so and so man, and I'm like, no, we don't call people colors. I was like, we're not colors, we're all just people. But back to the point, if I'm identifying, or if I'm sorry, I come off and look like a white woman, and then, all of a sudden I start seeing all of this discrimination and this inequality between the colors, and I almost start like hating myself for being white, or resenting myself for being fair skinned. And then I go through this whole like psychological, you know, manifestation, and I realize, like, wow, I've had it so easy my whole life, and colored people don't have it that easy. What if I just, because I hate the color of my skin now, because there are people who are not being treated fairly, I resent myself, so now I'm going to tell everybody that I'm identifying as this, African American or darker skinned woman, because I hate my identity so much from all the inequality that I see on earth. I now am going to change my identity and tell everyone that I am this black woman, let's just say, right? And that's literally what I was thinking about on this drive after looking at that Jeep door. And it's just crazy, because this is how the world is thinking. This is how far off we've gone. And I'll go back to that far off statement in a little bit. But, we've gotten to the point where there's so much like craziness, or maybe, we could say inequality, unfairness, hatred towards one another's differences. We've done that so much, especially with media, making it worse, because it's basically throwing coal into the fire, that people have, and we need to pay attention and be aware of people in our environments that may be going through this. But there are people who literally hate themselves so much that they don't want to be themselves anymore, and that's where we get all this like mental disorder too, because people hate their situations in life so much, or they think they hate themselves, and really they hate the situation that they may be in, or the environment that they may be in. They may not even hate themselves. It's just like they're putting it all on themselves. They're kind of like just taking it all and taking responsibility of that chaos, themselves. And in a way, your environment is how you think internally, but we'll go back to that. People have just gone to the point where they want to be somebody else. So people have either developed bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, all of these disorders that are basically around the bipolar stigma, someone who doesn't really know themselves, or goes back and forth between identities, or isn't sure, what they want to be, right? So there's, teenagers, there's adults that just hate a part of themselves so much that they want to be something else outside of themselves. So now in this, situation, if you hate yourself or your environment, and now you don't want to be yourself or be in your environment, you kind of start trying to like escape and what would they call it, right? Like when someone, a scapegoat. So now you're using a scapegoat and you're using another identity that you want to be because you don't want to take accountability for the feelings that you're having inside. And this is where this whole thing is coming from. We're like, oh, I want to identify as this instead of that because I've had so much pain or so much turmoil or so much emotional damage in this body or in this identity that I'm now going to change it because I'm basically, they don't realize they're running away from their real, true identity. Because imagine if I went around telling people, like, I want to identify as a Black woman, like, people would be mad. First of all, they'd get triggered, right? They'd start playing that judgmental game, get triggered, and tell me I am not, and I've never felt that I was, or I never been through it. And so that chaos starts happening. But this is a real thing. Like, these people are not just trying to be ignorant and say, I just want to identify as a Black woman now. What's happened is they truly hate their circumstances so much that they're running away from their true identity and trying to go into another one. So all because of this Jeep door, I came to these thoughts, and that was just a really big thing for me that I needed to bring up because I'm like, wow, like people really do feel like they need to escape their life situation or their identity. So if you don't know or don't understand people who do this, I hope I gave you a little bit of insight. But now let's get to the real show. Thanks everyone for joining me, and I'm your host, Yvette, aka Illuminated Wisdom. So thanks for joining the podcast. Today is Friday the 13th, and people, they have a lot of speculation around this day. It's kind of like taboo, right, in our society. And it goes back to history where like the Knights Templars were it's something bloody, right? I don't want to even get to it. Thanks everyone. So thanks so much for joining me, everyone, and welcome to my show. Today is Friday the 13th, and I'm your host, Yvette, aka Illuminated Wisdom. So we just went over how people, have these mental illnesses or psychological disorders because they truly hate their situations and their circumstances, right? And there's a lot of this going on. It's not just with people who have this mental disorder, or it's not just with people who display an obvious mental disorder. It's also people that are hiding, their dark thoughts internally, and then it comes out in a very disruptive or distorted way, right? So there are people that act out all the time. And you can't keep holding everyone accountable for when they act out because they're not acting out or even treating you badly because you've done something wrong. They're mostly acting out because they don't know how to handle the stress. They don't know how to handle the energy that's coming in or these conflicting thoughts. So this show is really basically to gear everyone and, lubricate everyone's minds to remember that we're all different, right? And there's all these kinds of societal differences that we have that we can't allow those societal differences to alter our own life, right? So when you're in a situation and there's, chaotic energy going around, and other people are blaming one another or pointing fingers or even mistreating you, or you think even uh, going out and being disrespectful towards you, don't take any of this stuff personal. I know there's a lot of like, they even said during the pandemic, the rise of, when people go out there and they drive crazy, what is that word? I can't believe it escaped me. Back to the point. So there's been a rise of that, right? There's also been a rise of customer complaints and people actually reaching out to corporations, management, in general, like commerce, and complaining about things that if you really think about it, back in the 90s or the early 2000s, a lot of this, customer dissatisfaction was kind of swept away or like tucked under the rug or like just kind of like ignored. But after the whole, pandemic thing and people getting so, I guess you could say, violent towards each other and recognizing these differences so much to where people actually had to act out on them, with the whole rise of that, everyone just is just vocalizing their thoughts now, or even allowing their thoughts to take over them. Because at the end of the day, like, it's good for you to stand up for yourself. Literally just last week, some lady at one of the sites that I worked at didn't pay me for all my hours. And deep down, like, I knew it was intentional because it's like you've been doing this for like over 30 years, and You're not messing up other people's time cards. Like, why did you mess mine up? Is it because I told you that I didn't want to come back and keep doing this assignment because I have my own business? And, some women get very catty about that when you mention that you do other things or that you don't have to be there. They tend to get very upset, especially when their job, that job, they're there all day and that's like their life. And when it's not your life, they seem to take it personal. So, getting back to the fact, this lady didn't pay me out for the hours that I put in. And it was a lot of hours that she was off by. So, if I had like not said anything, I would not have gotten paid for my time, right? Because I schedule my time and I make sure that I can do the things that I need to do outside of work. So if you're taking up my whole day, I'm working for you, you need to pay me for all that time. The moment I got there from the moment that I left. And so I had to stand up for myself. But this is the thing that most people have kind of like lost themselves in. They get themselves into situations where they need to stand up for themselves, but they're not doing it, in a balanced way. Let's just say they're doing it in a way where they're causing more damage or more chaos or more emotional upheaval. And so we can't go into situations with anger or with resentment or with disrespect and then expect things to come out in a respectful and non-angry way, right? So a lot of society's differences have always been there. We've always been different. It's not like we're just changing all of a sudden into these like different people. The thing is, people's patience are getting very thin and they're not able to actually carry themselves in a balanced way. They're constantly going up and down their own ladders of like being extremely happy and joyful and pleasant to all of a sudden they're angry, they're pissed, they're going to get revenge, they have to tell you off, they're going to scream, they're going to get belligerent. And a lot of people don't have that balanced mentality or way of even communicating to people. They'll fluctuate up and down. They're happy one moment and all of a sudden you do something and they get crazy. And it's not even like, okay, they expressed that they're upset about something. It's like they really went a little bit overboard and now cause you to feel a certain kind of way, right? But you have to be that stone, right? I'm sorry, not that stone. You just have to be that pillar for people in your environment if you are a balanced person, if you do communicate in a balanced way, if you don't let your tone, get the best of you. And I've noticed this in my situation that I am the pillar in my situation, and that is months and months of really like working on myself. The past 9 months, I've been able to conceptualize this life that I've always wanted. That it's not over yet. I'm not done meeting my goals, but it's changed so much because of the way that I communicate to people and the way people even respond to me as because of the way I'm communicating to people now, they respond to me in a better way. Not everybody's always nice to me, but the way I handle situations makes it so much easier to get through them because I'm not causing more chaos. Even when someone else is chaotic, I'm not reflecting those energies. I'm actually neutralizing them. So this is the point that I want to make, is that people do need a lot of mental help or even counseling or even mentoring, because we've lost the ability to communicate in an effective way and in a positive way, to where you don't come out with people fighting or being angry or wanting to create more damage. And so in the situation, I stood up for myself. I approached the situation in a balanced way, even though I was pretty pissed off, because I was like, this lady did it on purpose. She didn't pay me all my hours on purpose. You still have to go into those situations with a level head, right? A leveled head is really what we need nowadays. It's not like we're changed all of a sudden and we think differently, and that's why we're all fighting and there's all this chaos. That those thoughts and that behavior have always been there, but now people have lost this balanced scale inside of them, and they're tilting. They're no longer in control of themselves. They're allowing other people and situations to control them. So for instance, if something happens to you and it was kind of caused by someone else, are you going to act out and now get belligerent because someone else was off a little bit? now you're going to have their offness turn you off, or can you be that person that's going to be a level head, find a solution, or even just ignore like the tedious things that don't need to be approached or even spoken of, right? You don't want to burn your energy on every single situation that you come across when the other person is not coming off balance. You don't want to let that stuff completely drain you throughout your day. You have to keep your energy afloat, in those chaotic situations, so you can be okay, so you can have the energy to finish off your day and finish the tasks and meet your goals. Because if you keep allowing these other outside energies and outside people to take you off of your balance or off of your peace, then that is your own fault for now reacting in a way where you can't even find control of yourself. You've lost control, right? So, I said I was going to go back to this thing of like being off, right? And that's where things are right now. There's a lot of like really great people out there. They're nice, they're level-headed. But sometimes even those people who are really nice let people take advantage of them. So you got to find that balance, and there is not enough people out there that have that perfect harmonic balance. And people are off because there's just so much chaos and conflict going on, and it's just so obvious to see when you're out on the road and people are honking at each other, people are in the store and they're like not being respectful to one another. Or for instance, I work in a classroom and kids are also not motivated right now. A lot of kids are just neutral, they're good in school, whatever, but there's also these group of kids that are not motivated right now, and their home situations are not making it better because their families are not, they don't know how to respond to situations accordingly. So now these kids are struggling in school, they're struggling to respond to their situations and environment in a harmonic way. And so I'm in these classrooms, and even the teachers, right, because I'm just the teacher's assistant, or the assistant teacher. I'm not the teacher's assistant. She's not my boss. The principal is my boss. Anyways, I'm the assistant teacher. And a lot of the kids, especially the sites where I go back to, really respond well to me. Even those kids that are considered troublemakers, right? Or even those special need kids that are considered, intensive behavior, and there was one kid, for instance, that I always think about because he struggles with just being defiant, and he has something in him where he just constantly is being defiant, or like tossing chairs or throwing things around the room. But when I'm there, when I'm in that classroom supervising or supervising him, he doesn't act out that way. Like I'm that pillar, I'm that neutral force that doesn't allow the situation to get too out of hand, because I know how to bring in the energy that's going to neutralize it, not calm it down all the way, and definitely not make it worse. Because his teacher, for instance, kept making the situation worse. The main teacher, the way she was speaking to him, because she was getting triggered that he wasn't doing the work that he was supposed to. So then she speaks to him in a way, and now he gets triggered, and now they're going back and forth. And I'm literally sitting there, as an assistant, wondering why this teacher is going back and forth with the student. When he mimicked, I told him, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. And he mimics me, right? And he does that to everybody. But did I take it personal and say, stop doing that? You're going to stop doing that, or I'm going to take you to the principal's office. No, because it's going to escalate the situation. I understand that he's a special needs kid. I understand because his sped teacher, she one-on-one with me beforehand and was talking about how, oh, with Eddie, I want you to just not take anything personal, because he tends to like talk back a lot, but don't take it personal. And me, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I already know these fundamentals, from my own relationships in life. But I'm not gonna be a know-it-all and tell her, oh, okay, I already know that. Like I just listen to people and I allow it to be, and then I work accordingly. So I'm not escalating these situations with this kid who is like throwing a pencil across the room, but his teacher is. So now they're going back and forth. Now he's triggered. Now he's like trying to get out of the classroom and do some other stuff. But here I am neutralizing the energy, right? And because I'm level headed and I'm not being altered by these triggering things, these things that would usually trigger others, but they no longer trigger me. Do you know what I mean? Just not taking things personal. So if he's acting up, if he's stressed and he's triggered, whatever he says or does to me, it's not my fault. It's not something that I'm doing wrong. Even if he calls me names, even if he says, oh, old lady, or something that may be kind of true or whatever that I could get offended by, like it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm here to supervise you and make sure that you're successful. And if you want to, make some poor choices, go ahead and make those poor choices. But let's keep moving and trying to get through the day and try to be a little bit better on the next round, right? And so a lot of people, just like the teachers too. And I want you to really talk to your kids. If you have kids that are in school, like talk to them, find out, like what's going on in school, what they talk about with their friends, because you'd be surprised. Like I'm telling you, I work from grade TK all the way to seniors, and I've seen it all, and I've talked to them all, and I see these teachers, and a lot of teachers are great, but a lot of these teachers tend to yell at the students in order to get control of the environment. And it's just not the way to go because, like I said, I'm just an assistant teacher. But even when I supervise the classroom and the teacher's not there, they just don't act this way. And I've heard it so many times before. When I leave a site, because I'm done subbing there, I hear it all the time. Oh, I missed you, man. These students are so different when you're not around. The students miss you. Even when teachers lecture them, like the other day, the teacher's lecturing these kids and they don't want to hear it because this is the same stuff that all of their teachers since kindergarten have been saying. You need to listen to me because I'm the teacher. You're the student. This is my teaching time. You're capable of doing this. You need to follow the rules. And these kids are like falling asleep. And I just had to get in there. I was like, hey, can I say something? And, the teachers, they get along with me well anyway. They don't have any animosity, most of them. So she let me speak, and I come in there and I'm like, hey guys, like, just remember when you come to school, you're a representation of your family. What goes on at home, you don't have to bring it here. You just need to do your best and try to make them proud. But if you're acting out and you're acting this kind of way, you're making your family look bad. And I even brought up, and someone was telling me that I was doing a good job at relating to them, but I needed them to understand on a level where they're interested. And so I said, all of your favorite YouTubers, because these kids talk about going to meet and greets with these YouTubers, right? I'm like, even, your favorite YouTubers, and they don't know what I do, right? Even they have to work hard, I tell them. I'm like, they have to focus, they have to put time in. They've got homework to do. I'm like, they don't have other people doing everything for them. I was like, unless they get to a really big level. And I was like, but even your artists and your favorite celebrities, right? Like Drake, like they didn't get to that level without putting in work, without focusing, without actually, desiring to be successful. And, give them a little bit more talk, 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 but they wouldn't stop telling me that was the best speech ever. Why did they tell me that was the best speech ever and then roll their eyes at their teacher? Because their teacher wasn't relating to them. These teachers, it's all about following the rules, and being the standard for society. Be what society needs you to be instead of like really talking down and getting on their level and trying to tell them that it's deeper than that. It's not just about following the rules. Why are we following the rules? Like, why are we being respectful? Like, where is that going to get us? And let them know it's not about getting in trouble and these rules and being the teacher and the boss of you. It's about like, you need to do this for yourself. Your family is counting on you. Those older generations, if they didn't reach the success that they really were looking for when they came to this country, can you do it for them? Or if it's too late for you, let's just say, can you teach your kids to not make the same mistakes that you and your family and your parents and the generations before you have made? Can you get down to their level and get to the level where they can understand that, right? And that's how we're going to win this war on the mentality, on the spirit, on the mind. The only way we're going to win this war is if we ourselves, sorry, I keep touching the mic, we ourselves teach ourselves to be better and change these bad patterns, these bad habits of even speaking to one another in a bad way. I have kids that I can't yell at them or discipline them in a way where they're going to just all of a sudden listen to me because they're fearful of me. I need to get down to a level where they're going to comprehend why I need them to act better, and I always do that in a verbal way. I've done the thing back in the day where I used to like yell at them and even spank them here and there. And of course, they'll still, get threatened with a spank here and there. But the yelling doesn't get through these kids. This new generation, the younger ones, they're so emotional. They don't know how to handle their emotions. That you yelling and demoralizing them, isn't going to make them tougher. It's not like back in the 80s, baby, like where you were so tough on your kids and they grew up and then now they're tough. That's toxic, because those older people now that are so mean to one another, you can't get through them. Now they can't change. So you want to get to your kids a level where they can understand something and not just listen to you because you're the mom and you're the dad, you're bigger, they're smaller. The same Matilda over here. Okay, our kids are intellectual enough to understand why we need them to do something. So stop bossing them around and get them to be on your team and teach them why you need to work as a team, why you need to stay as a family, why there needs to be apologies, why we have to be, speaking to each other in a better tone, right? Because everyone gets triggered when you don't do that. So if we could just teach our children to do it, man, the world will be a better place, because it's a little too late for some of those older people. And that's really what I have to say about that, being in these classes and seeing these children and being with all different kinds of children and just observing the adults in the world. It's really like that. It's just the emotional outbursts that people have that they don't know how to control. And so, yes, they do social emotional learning in the schools, but this is just like, these are scripted. Some teachers can really deliver that information in a great way, but that's really up to the parents. Like, you can't expect your kids to learn how to tie their shoes at school. That's your job. That's you putting in at least an hour or two of your time to teach your kids something that they're not going to be bugging you to do for them anymore, right? So can you do that with their behavior and their tonality and the way they speak to people? Can you train them to be better and to be more accepting of people? So when someone acts out in a disrespectful way or in a crazy way, you don't take it personal, because you realize, well, homie, you're acting like that because that's on you. Something's going on inside of you. So whatever's going on inside of you that's making you explode, I'm not going to allow that explosion to come and make me explode, right? We need to keep our peace. We need to be sturdy and what is that way, like grounded, so where people are not swaying us back and forth. Well, you're grounded, baby. Like, their attitudes and their vibrations are not going to swindle you. You're going to stay grounded. You're going to be yourself. You're going to remember who you are, and remember that these people do these things because they're going through something. Okay, so don't let it switch you up, and then now you got all this back and forth, dude. Stop gossiping about other people. That's not your life. You don't know what they're going through, what they have to deal with. And look at your own situation. Are you any better? Like, maybe you're doing that same thing in your life in a different way, and you're over here just, oh, look at that girl, look at her face, blah blah. And it's like, well, look at you. But people do it all the time. Like, I can sit there and listen to my family talk all this smack about some lady who's on TV, who's getting there. She's on TV, she's getting her money, she's getting all her little everything that she wanted. And yet, I hear my family, oh, she's not wearing a bra. I'm like, what? Grandma, what do you mean she's not wearing a bra? Are you? And let me tell you, like, that's how people are these days. They themselves are not doing something that they said they were going to do, or they're not going after their own goals. But here they are, like, that person over there, see, they're not doing it right. Okay. But are you doing it right? Because you're over there pointing at someone who has nothing to do with your situation, right? Why don't you pay attention to the people who are around you, your family, your kids, your mom, your dad? Are you only taking care of yourself? Because if you were taking care of yourself, you'd be like, maybe you'd be a little bit more level-headed. Maybe you'd be a little bit more neutral. Maybe more people would gravitate towards you. Maybe you'd be more liked or more supported by others if you didn't have all that craziness going on, right? So these are just things to really be aware of, because there's so much information that gets through and goes through our phone and goes through our ears throughout the day, that we don't know how to prioritize our life anymore. And so hopefully, if you're watching this video, this helps you in some kind of way, because we need to understand each other better. This war that they have over there in the Middle East is like it's the tipping point for some people, and people have been reaching their boiling point since the pandemic. Like I mentioned, people have been reaching their boiling point, gone past their boiling point, but you need to cool back down. Water is boiled, but when you take it off the fire, it will cool down, and you need to stop putting coal in that fire that's burning you up and burning all your energy and attention and focus up. Stop feeding that flame and get on the right path to like accomplish your goals. If you had goals at all 10 years ago, maybe you're young, so maybe you had some goals 3 years ago. Look at them right now and ask yourself if you are working towards those goals, and stop allowing, this demonic force, this low vibrational force to control you. Because like I said, when someone's down there talking to you in a bad way and now you go down there on their level and do the same thing, it's not going to work out. And so, yeah, like I said, things are off. People are loaded. Loaded. What does the word loaded look like? Loaded. The very beginning of the word is low, right? What's the other word I wrote? Loathing, right? So there's a lot of homeless people out there. And yes, it's because the rising rent. It's because of the greed of these, homeowners that rent out their properties, or big corporations that have these apartment buildings, and now they want to raise the rent on you because they fixed the window. And it's a lot of that greed. And that's why people are out on the street. But I've seen a few families on the street that have children, and there are real life parents out there with children homeless. And I've cried already in these situations, seeing them and feeling bad for them, and wanting to help out and stuff. And it's tough. We can't help everybody. Like, all I can do is really just do it for my family, focus on myself, and get to that level where I can help more people. But it's not going to happen overnight. And you have to stay focused, and you have to keep your goals afloat, because you can't help people who are helpless if you yourself are helpless too. Get to the level where you need to be at, where you're proud of yourself, where you're not going to be, depleting from yourself and not accomplishing your stuff just to help others, right? So there's this thing that people talk about, like karma, when you give a homeless person money and then they go and they buy drugs with it, right? And then there's situations where you're like, well, that lady has kids and I don't think she was ever on drugs. I think it's just a financial situation. And then you may want to help out. And that's great. I'm glad, you're helping people out and stuff. But don't forget that, like, when you try to intervene in other people's situations, you need to make sure that your hands are clean first, and that you can take care of your family first, right? You're not taking away from your family to give to a stranger, or you're not giving to a stranger that's going to turn around and do something wrong with that money that you gave them. And so, yes, I have compassion and I feel for other people. And there's a lot of homelessness going out there. But there's also at the same time people who loathe, and that's where I'm getting at, loathe in their situations. And we even have kids, kids need to learn how to stop doing that. When kids do something wrong, or they make a mistake and they sit there and weep about it or cry about it, and they haven't learned how to turn it around and find a quick solution for that problem, right? Let's just say my son's drawing something, his artwork, and his pencil goes through the paper. Now there's a hole in the artwork, right? Am I going to let him sit there and loathe and be all sad and depressed? I'm going to be like, no, 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 let's not waste time being sad. And this is how I talk to my kids. Let's not waste time being sad. That's okay. We can fix this. And I go get some clear tape, put it on the back of the paper so you don't see the front, see it in the front. And just like everything has like minor solutions like that, like little quick fixes, even if it's temporary, then you work harder to get to that real permanent solution, right? But there's so many adults these days that loathe in their situations. They complain and they cry and they point fingers, and like wasting all that time, effort, and energy instead of finding a solution, like really putting their all into it. Because if I don't get this job, my kids are going to die on the street. They're going to starve. If I don't go in there, clearly there's help wanted signs all over the place. You know what I mean? There's work out there, even if it's a minimum wage job. Like, dude, do it for your family, do it for your kids, do it for everyone around you. If you feel like your life is not together, it's your job to put it in order. Stop complaining about your mother-in-law that you live with, that you're in her house and you're over here complaining about that. Like, we have gone so far off that nothing is right anymore, and we need to put that back together. So those are the things I was talking about. Like, things are off. There's a lot of war happening. What do we do? What's the opposite of off? On. Turn yourself on. Turn your awareness on. And if it's so hard to do that, maybe you need to cleanse, maybe you need to clear your body, maybe you need some air in your lungs to be able to see things clearly. Okay? So that means self-care, analyzing ourselves. What can we do different to help ourselves so we can raise the family up? And that's my thing today. It's really like there's so much mental illness out there. There's so much inequality. There's so much emotion. How are we going to handle all of this? And it starts with you not being so reactionary and learning the art of communication, right? And connecting enough to understand others when they're crying out for help, and not allowing yourself to tilt backwards and not be able to help them. Being a pillar, being strong enough to not allow these forces to break you down and bring you to that low level of gossip and fighting and things like that. So I hope that this video helped. I hope you guys tune into the next episode. I'm going to have Aquavision on the show. He makes a conscious music. He's all about transcending that negative mentality into positivity, and that's what I love. So he's going to be on the show October 18th, Wednesday, October 18th. So what is it, October 18th? Okay, I'll definitely keep you guys updated on when that show will be. Stay tuned, everyone, for the next one. And thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure being able to be here, be up here, and be able to vocalize and express these words of wisdom. All right, guys, catch you on the next one. Bye.